Hey everyone, Michelle Markey with Medina Domestic Art Studio, and this is going to be a little demo video about painting on denim. I will be at the Denton Guild this week, or rather, excuse me, next week, doing a presentation on denim and DTFs, and I always like to do these little precursor tests ahead of time. We will be talking about the various different types of products that you can use on denim, why you would use one versus the other. And so I thought I would use this opportunity as I'm testing to videotape it, so to speak. So I want to just kind of show you what I'm doing here. And let's focus in where you see each one of these bottles. We'll get to the marker here in a minute. But what I'm doing is I'm testing each one of these various different types of products to see how well they work on denim. And each one has its own pluses or minuses, and I'm going to just go through them really super briefly here. This is purely pigment. I think many of you have seen videos that I've done on this, and this is pure pigment that I then mixed with an opaque extender. We'll talk a little bit about this towards the end, but the reason I'm doing this is that this pigment must have something to bind to that will then allow it to bind to the various fibers of the fabric. Likewise, I did the same thing here with this Daler-Rowney Aquafine watercolor ink. And again, we'll talk about the results here in a minute. Next, Pro Chemical and Dyes Color Concentrate. That also was mixed with their own opaque extender. This is actually one of the ingredients that they use to create opaque paint. And again, we'll talk about it after I get through all the various items. Now, the next one is one of Pro Chemical and Dyes opaque paint. And I've just painted it directly onto the fabric. Yeah, it's a different yellow. And why am I using yellow? Because yellow is actually one of the hardest colors to apply to denim and have it stay true to its color. So I think that the best test is the hardest color, and whatever is successful is obviously going to be a product that you're going to want to use. Now I'll get to the Komenskaya acrylic inks here in a minute, as I want to demo actually mixing with the opaque extender. And then last but not least, this is just a pure acrylic polymer paint that does indicate that it is water resistant. So what I did was I painted it directly onto the fabric, and we'll see the results after or talk about the results after I finish this. Okay, now on the tip of my brush here, I have some of the opaque extender, and this is the Komenskaya, and I'm just going to mix it up really good here. The reason I'm doing this with the inks is because 9 times out of 10, inks are going to soak into the fabric and they're not going to stay on top. Now, the reason I'm testing Komenskaya is because in the past, when I have tested them, they have proven to be very highly pigmented. So I'm hoping that this is something that you can actually use. Let me just keep mixing here. Let me look down myself. That's looking pretty good. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to test it right here. And again, you can see this shirt, y'all. I've used this for testing many times, so I don't care what it looks like. I'm really testing here to see how well the yellow goes on and how well it actually sits on the fabric, if you will, or at least stays true yellow. Let me get a little bit more of that here so that we can have a nice little sample to look at. Now, right off the bat, let's talk about what I don't like. Given the fact that you can still see the thread color, that's not true opaque. If it were true opaque, it would actually hide the threads. So in looking at all of this that I have on the table, even though it states opaque, none of these have hidden the thread. And you'll notice that I've got a light orange thread down here. So that's something to consider when you are looking for something that you want high pigmentation on denim. You really want to try to find something that is super opaque. Okay, the very last thing I'm going to test is this marker, and I'm going to use the short end. Now this is one of the very few that actually, I like my cheap Chinese acrylic markers. Beat 'em, bait 'em, whatever you want to say. That's the manufacturer, one of the very few that actually will post the manufacturer. And let's just go, I don't know, let's just pick a point right here and start coloring. Yeah, I mean, you can tell it's yellow, but it's going down pretty light. Let me flip this around. Sometimes one end, it could be running out of ink. I mean, these things, at any given moment, they can run out of ink because, once again, they're cheap Chinese markers. They're not guaranteed for any length of time. That's why when y'all buy them from me, I kind of warn you. Yeah, no, it doesn't look like it's going to be any different at this end. But let me finish coloring this area in, and then we'll talk about each one of these. So once again, it too, I mean, I'm rubbing right up against the fabric. It's certainly, the thread. It's not coloring the thread with any kind of yellow. Well, maybe a little bit there, but again, you can still see it's orange thread underneath. Excuse me, we're having a lot of pollen around here lately, so I'm a little croaky, so I beg your pardon. Okay, so there you go. Let me put the cap back on. The one thing you can be guaranteed, if you don't put the cap back on these things, they will dry out, and they are not revivable as far as I have learned. Okay, so let me just kind of put this in the center, and we'll have it pointing towards it. Now, first, I'm going to tell you the two winners in my book right now are the Nova Color and the Purely Pigment. Downside of Purely Pigment, sadly, she is closing her doors in a couple of weeks. So this is not really going to be a product that's going to be available past the end of October. If this tickles your fancy, y'all, get on our website, colorart.com. I think I've got several links in my overall description. You can go click on it. If not, request or comment below, and I'll put the website out there. This stuff is great. In fact, tonight I ordered several more bottles so that I can have a steady supply for the next year until I can figure out where else I can get really good pure pigment like this is. Okay, so that color looks really good and yellow. I'm very happy with that. With all of these, I'm going to be frank with you, looking at them, which you may not be able to tell online or through the phone, they're not super yellow, not like bright yellow, like school bus yellow, like I would expect. And so if I were going to be using these, I would probably end up having to put several coats on. So what can I say? That's why you test yellow, whatever works best for you. Just know that you're probably going to have to end up using several coats to get it really bright. Now, here's the one I would probably throw out in a heartbeat, but I did want to show this to you because many of you guys have asked me about watercolor. Now, by itself and on fabric, this works great. I did mix it with some of the opaque extender. It did go down, but you can see it's not nearly as yellow as the pure pigments, nor nearly as yellow as, say, the Color Concentrate by Pro Chemical and Dye. So I would probably just reject this one out of hand. I think you would have to put layer upon layer. You know, again, watercolor soaks into things, and it's not meant to be super intense. So because so many of you, though, have watercolor pencils at home, the question always arises, well, can I use these on denim? And sadly, no, I don't recommend them for use on denim. Okay, so the Pro Chemical and Dye, hands down, really nice bright yellow. It went on beautifully with the opaque extender. I actually also use this mix with my fabric medium. Makes a wonderful fabric paint. Can't stress enough that all the Pro Chemical and Dye products, of course, is where it are the basis of my fabric medium, as you may have seen in previous videos. Okay, so great color there. I like it. We're just saying the same thing about their Pro Chemical opaque fabric paint. It goes on very well. Nice layer. So again, I would probably recommend both of those without any hesitation. Let me jump over now to the Novo. Now, this is just a plain acrylic polymer paint. The reason I chose this one is because it does say opaque. And in the description, it does say it's water resistant. Of course, as always, what I'm going to end up doing is I'll heat this set after everything is dry and test it for its washability. And we'll probably do a follow-up video to let you guys know what the outcome was. But I have been using a Novo color in large areas. I really like it. And as you can see, it went down quite yellowish. In fact, I don't know if you're looking at them, it's a toss-up between these two, and then I think this one would be next. All right, last but not least are the acrylic inks. Similar, I think, to the watercolor. I think anything that is an acrylic ink, such as this, even though these have a lot of pigmentation in them, it just gets absorbed by the denim, and it's the one that almost looks like it's lime green. And finally, the acrylic marker worked. I would say you probably have to go over it a couple of times. In fact, let's just do that right now because more than likely it's already dry. And that's the beauty about these markers. So let's just put a second coat on. Yeah, so you could probably put a couple of coats on this and you would obviously get a yellow. Would it be super bright yellow? Yeah. Probably not, but again, the cost with these markers, as inexpensive as they are, you may have to sacrifice a little bit of color to be able to color a denim shirt. And hey, if it's something that you're gonna just kick around in and it's not gonna be something you're gonna be showing off to the world, again, these markers are kind of my go-to almost every single time that I color on denim. So that's about it in a nutshell. I just wanted to, again, give you guys a little bit of look-see. For those of you who are in the Denton Guild, I won't be actually doing this demo. I'll reference this video. You can come out here and watch, but I will be taking the results as well as what the results look like after I have washed them, so we can determine which of these is really good. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I can tell you already Pro Chemical and dye stuff will work just fine. I don't have hopes for watercolor. I've tested purely pigments before. It will probably work well. These do. I don't know that I've tested this, but we'll find out. And again, we'll find out about the acrylic inks. So I'll do a short part 2 here after I've washed it and get back with you with the results. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. You know I always like to follow up with everyone. And as always, thanks for watching.